I always thought my life was pretty perfect. My wife, Claire, was everything I could have ever asked for. We'd been married for 3 years, and we had built a life together that seemed solid. I had a good job, a beautiful home, and a woman who loved me. Or so I thought. Everything changed in an instant. It was a Friday night, a week before our anniversary. I had finished a long day at work and decided to surprise Claire with a late dinner. I grabbed a bottle of her favorite wine and a bouquet of flowers, trying to make up for the time I'd been spending at the office. We'd drifted a little lately, work had taken more of my attention than I wanted, but I was going to make it up to her. I was determined. I walked into the house, expecting her to be in the kitchen, the way she always was when she was preparing dinner. Instead, the house was silent. "Claire?" I called out, my voice echoing through the empty space. I walked down the hallway, setting the flowers down on the counter, and called again. No answer. My heart started to race as I walked into the bedroom. At first, I thought she was just busy with something. But then, I saw her phone on the bed. It was open, something I hadn't seen her do before. She was always careful with her phone. I didn't mean to, but something urged me to pick it up. It wasn't like I didn't trust her. I had no reason to suspect anything was wrong. But curiosity gnawed at me. The screen lit up with a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Can't wait to see you tonight, babe. I'm counting down the minutes." My stomach twisted. I glanced at the timestamp. It was from earlier that day. It wasn't the first time I'd seen a message like this, but I hadn't thought much of it. It was from someone at her work. But the way the words hit me now, with my heart already on edge, made me freeze. "Babe?" I set the phone down, a sickening realization beginning to wash over me. The thoughts I had pushed aside suddenly came flooding in. I had ignored the late nights, the mysterious phone calls, the times she'd gone out with friends but returned later than usual. I tried to shake the feeling off, but it was there, hanging in the air like a thick fog. I sat on the bed, my mind racing, trying to piece everything together. Then, the front door opened, and I heard her voice. "Hey, babe." I could feel the blood drain from my face. She came into the bedroom, her face lighting up when she saw me sitting there. But as soon as she saw my expression, her smile faltered. "Hey, what's going on?" she asked, her voice tentative. I could barely speak. I just stared at her. "Who's babe?" I managed to choke out. Her face went pale. She took a step back, eyes wide, trying to gather herself. "What are you talking about?" she asked, her voice a little too high-pitched. I slid the phone over to her. "This. Who's babe, Claire?" She hesitated, looking down at the screen, and I saw it, the quick flicker of guilt in her eyes. It was enough to make my heart sink. "Look, I can explain," she started, but I interrupted her. "No, don't. You don't have to explain anything." My voice was sharp, even though my chest was tight with pain. "I've been blind. But not anymore." I stood up, my hands shaking, and walked toward the door. "Where are you going?" she called after me, her voice now full of panic. I turned to look at her. "I'm going to get out of here for a while. We'll talk later." Her face twisted with frustration. "You're just going to leave? You don't even want to hear me out?" I shook my head, disbelief and anger rising in me like a tidal wave. "You've said enough. You've been cheating on me, Claire. That's all I need to hear." The words stung more than I thought they would. I had always trusted her, trusted us. I had never imagined this would happen to me. And yet, here I was. standing in the wreckage of everything I thought I knew. I could see it in her eyes then. The guilt, the regret, the panic. But it didn't matter. I didn't care about the excuses anymore. I didn't care about the apology she was going to give me. I wasn't going to let her make me feel small. As I grabbed my jacket and walked out of the door, I felt my world crumbling behind me. Everything I had built with Claire, the life, the trust, the love, was falling apart. I walked down the street, the cool night air hitting my face, but it didn't offer me any comfort. I wasn't sure what was worse, the fact that she'd cheated or the way she seemed to think that I wouldn't be able to find someone better. She had used me, lied to me, and then expected me to just accept it. The anger hit me then, fierce and raw. But as I stood there on the sidewalk, seething with hurt and betrayal, something else happened. Something deep inside me started to change. I wasn't going to stay broken. I wasn't going to fall apart like she expected. She had made her choice, but that didn't mean I had to live with it. I wasn't just going to let her destroy me. And at that moment, I made a choice. I was going to rise from this. I was going to rebuild my life. For me. The first few days after Claire's betrayal were a blur of pain and confusion. I couldn't escape it. Every waking moment was filled with thoughts of her, her lies, her betrayal, the way she looked at me like I was the one who had done something wrong. I couldn't stop replaying everything in my mind, the signs I had ignored, the late nights, the way she had looked at her phone when I walked into the room. It was all so clear now, but the clarity only made the pain worse. I spent nights staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep, unable to think straight. There were times when I would lie on the couch, staring into the dark, waiting for the numbness to take over. But it never did. The hurt was constant, relentless, and every time I closed my eyes, I saw her with him. I saw the way she had smiled when she thought I wasn't looking, the way she had hidden her phone when I asked about it. I saw the words from that text message repeating in my mind like a curse, "Can't wait to see you tonight, babe." I didn't know how to move forward. All the plans we had made, the future we had talked about, seemed meaningless now. I wasn't the man I thought I was. She had torn me apart, and now, there was nothing left of that trust, nothing left of the life I thought I'd built. I tried to talk to her, tried to get some answers, but all she did was make excuses. "I was just lonely," she said. "You never paid attention to me anymore." It didn't matter. Nothing mattered. Her betrayal was so much deeper than I could have ever imagined. She wasn't the woman I thought she was. I wasn't the man I thought I was either. Her words stung the most. "You'll never find someone better," she told me, her voice dripping with confidence. "No one will ever love you the way I did." Those words cut through me like knives. I had trusted her with everything, and now she was telling me I was nothing without her. It didn't matter how much I tried to hold back the tears. It didn't matter how many times I told myself I didn't care. Those words stayed with me, echoing in my mind every single day. I didn't believe her, not completely. But in those first few days, the doubt crept in. Was she right? Was I really nothing without her? Would I ever find someone else? Could I ever be good enough again? I found myself sinking deeper into despair, feeling smaller and more insignificant with every passing day. She had ripped my heart out, and now it was like I was just waiting for the pain to end. But it didn't. It lingered. It settled into my bones and made every day feel like a battle I wasn't sure I could win. Then something started to change. It wasn't much at first, just a small flicker inside of me, a spark of anger, of frustration. The more I thought about everything Claire had said, the more something inside me hardened. I wasn't going to let her win. I wasn't going to let her take everything from me. I had spent so much time blaming myself, wondering what I could have done differently, that I had forgotten one thing: I wasn't the one who had betrayed anyone. I wasn't the one who had lied. She was the one who chose to throw everything away. And I wasn't going to let her steal my happiness. The anger became fuel. I started working out again, something I had neglected for months. At first, it was just a way to let out the frustration, to push myself physically when I felt mentally weak. But soon, I realized it was more than that. It was about regaining control of my life, of my body, of my mind. Each rep, each drop of sweat, was a reminder that I was still capable of change. I was still in control. At work, I stopped dragging my feet. I threw myself into my projects, pouring all my energy into building something for myself. I started networking more, making new connections, and before I knew it, I was getting opportunities one had never even considered. My job, which had once felt like a lifeline, now felt like the start of something bigger. I reconnected with old friends who had been there for me before. I spent more time with them, laughed with them, and for the first time since everything had fallen apart, I felt a little lighter. They didn't see me as the broken man Claire had left behind. They saw me for who I was, not who I used to be. The days passed, and gradually, the hurt began to fade. Not completely, of course, it never truly fades, does it? But I felt something else growing inside of me. Confidence. I wasn't the same person I was before Claire's betrayal. That man was gone, but a stronger, more determined version was taking his place. I stopped feeling sorry for myself. I stopped believing her words, that I was nothing without her. I realized something: I didn't need her to be happy. I didn't need her to validate me. I was enough. I always had been. As I looked in the mirror one day, I saw a man who had been broken and had come back stronger. My reflection wasn't perfect, but it was real. And it was mine. I didn't have all the answers. I didn't know what my future looked like, but for the first time in months, I wasn't scared of it. I wasn't haunted by the idea that I couldn't go on without Claire. I had learned that I could stand on my own. I was learning to love myself again, to trust myself again. And that was enough. It had been months since Claire left me, but I still hadn't completely let go. I told myself I was over it, told everyone around me I was fine. But deep down, I knew I wasn't. I was living in the past, holding on to the memories of what we had, what I thought we had. And no matter how hard I tried, those memories lingered, like shadows that followed me everywhere. I spent my days buried in work, barely functioning outside of that. I didn't care about much else. I didn't care about the weekend plans with friends or the new things I could try. All I could think about was Claire. What she was doing. Who she was with. What could have been. The pain was always there, in the back of my mind, and I was tired of pretending it wasn't. But then, one morning, I woke up, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I realized something: I had been living in the past. I had been clinging to the ghost of a life I thought I was supposed to have. The more I thought about it, the more I saw how much I was holding on to something that didn't exist anymore. Claire wasn't the woman I thought she was. She had shown me that much. And I wasn't the man I used to be either. The man I had been, trusting, content, confident, was gone, swallowed up by the wreckage of our broken relationship. I had let her take pieces of me, and I hadn't even realized how much of myself I had given away. But I was done. I was done holding on to the past, done chasing after someone who had shown me nothing but betrayal. It was time to move on, not just from Claire, but from everything that had kept me stuck in a place I didn't want to be. I wasn't going to keep letting her define my life, or worse, hold me back. So, I did what I should have done months ago. I stopped chasing after her approval. I deleted her number from my phone. It felt like a small victory. The first real one I had in a long time. I even blocked her on social media, even though she had only tried to reach out a couple of times, leaving voicemails or texting me with things like "I'm sorry and can we talk?" At first, I had wanted to hear her out. I thought maybe we could fix things. But each time I even entertained the thought, I remembered what she had done, and the anger came rushing back. I realized I was still letting her control me, even from a distance. So, I stopped answering. I wasn't going to fall for her manipulations again. I wasn't going to let her pull me back into her orbit. It wasn't easy at first. The silence was suffocating, and I could feel the pull of the past, tugging at me, begging me to look back. But slowly, I began to focus on myself. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about survival. It was about rebuilding the person I had been before Claire. I started going to the gym again, and not just casually. I pushed myself. I lifted weights, ran on the treadmill, anything to feel strong again. I'd always been active, but after Claire left, I hadn't cared about anything. Now, I could feel the strength returning. The old me was waking up, piece by piece. My muscles ached at the end of each workout, but it felt good. It felt like I was doing something for myself. And then, I threw myself into work. It had always been something I was good at, but I'd let it slip when I was distracted by Claire. I took on a new project, one that pushed me to my limits. It wasn't easy. I stayed late at the office, sometimes working weekends just to stay ahead. But it paid off. I was promoted, and with that, came a sense of accomplishment that I had been missing for so long. I had earned something for myself. I was no longer coasting through life on autopilot, waiting for things to fall into place. I was making things happen. But no matter how much I tried to focus on myself, the ghost of Claire kept coming back. Every time my phone buzzed, I expected a message from her. Every time my thoughts drifted, I found myself thinking of her, wondering if she was seeing someone else, wondering if she regretted what she had done. But every time, I pushed those thoughts away. I wasn't going to waste my energy on her anymore. She had made her choice, and now it was my turn to choose. The more I threw myself into work and fitness, the less I thought about Claire. It was like a fog lifting, and with it came clarity. I realized that I had been so focused on what we could have been that I had lost sight of what I could be. And what I could be was so much more than I had ever imagined. It wasn't just about physical transformation. It was mental, too. I started reading again, books that inspired me, books that made me think about who I was and who I wanted to become. I rediscovered passions I had neglected. I wasn't living in the shadow of someone else's choices anymore. I was living for me. One evening, as I sat at my desk, working late on a new proposal, I noticed my phone light up. I hesitated for a moment, then picked it up. It was Claire. A message. "Can we talk? Please? I miss you." The old me might have called her back, might have let her worm her way back into my life. But not now. Not anymore. I read the message, stared at it for a few seconds, then deleted it. The anger flared up again, but this time, it wasn't directed at her. It was directed at myself, for ever letting her make me feel small. I sat back in my chair, took a deep breath, and realized something. Claire's words, her actions, they didn't define me. I was the one who defined my life now. And I wasn't going to let her pull me back into the past. I wasn't looking for closure anymore. I was looking forward, not backward. This was my turning point. The first few months after I decided to move on were the hardest. I wasn't used to focusing entirely on myself, to making choices for my own well-being rather than for someone else's approval. But slowly, everything began to shift. It didn't happen overnight, but it happened in ways I couldn't ignore. At work, I started to take on more responsibilities, diving into projects that pushed me beyond what I thought I was capable of. My boss noticed the change, and soon enough, I was offered a promotion. The recognition felt good, but it was more than just that. It was validation, not from anyone else, but from myself. I was proving to me that I could do it, that I didn't need Claire, or anyone, to feel worthwhile. It wasn't just work. I'd spent the past few months at the gym, rebuilding my body the way I had rebuilt my life. It wasn't about getting back at her. It was about me rediscovering my strength, physically and mentally. The weight I lifted in the gym mirrored the emotional weight I had been carrying. Every drop of sweat, every sore muscle, was a reminder that I was moving forward. And it wasn't just my body that was changing. I was becoming someone else, someone I hadn't seen in years. The old me, the confident, driven man, was returning. I was starting to feel good about myself again. I was starting to feel strong. It felt like everything I'd neglected before, my career, my health, my happiness, was coming together. It was like I was finally living the life I was supposed to live, the one I had lost when Claire and I started to fall apart. It wasn't the life I had imagined with her, but it was mine, and I was proud of it. The most rewarding part of it all, though, was that I didn't need anyone's approval anymore. I didn't need Claire's approval. I wasn't looking for her validation, not anymore. She had taken so much from me, but in the process, I had learned something priceless. I was enough without her. I didn't need her to define who I was. It wasn't easy to shake off her words, those hurtful, manipulative words that still haunted me. But as time passed, I realized they didn't matter. I had found my strength, and that strength didn't come from her or anyone else. It came from within me. The real turning point came when I ran into Claire one afternoon. I was leaving work, my briefcase in hand, when I saw her walking toward me. For a moment, I thought I might turn and walk the other way, just to avoid the awkwardness. But something stopped me. I wasn't afraid of her anymore. I wasn't afraid of anything anymore. I stood my ground, waiting for her to approach. She spotted me and stopped in her tracks, a mix of surprise and confusion crossing her face. I could see it in her eyes, she didn't recognize me. She had known the old me, the version who was so easily manipulated, so willing to accept her words, her actions. But that man was gone. "Hey," she said, her voice uncertain. "I didn't expect to see you here." I nodded, not sure what else to say. I didn't feel any of the anger that I had before, but there was something else, detachment. I had moved on. I wasn't looking for a confrontation. I wasn't looking for closure. I had already found it within myself. "How are you doing?" she asked, her gaze flickering over me as if she was seeing me for the first time. "I'm doing well," I replied, my voice steady. "I'm better than I've ever been." Her eyebrows shot up in surprise, and I saw her eyes dart to the way I was standing, how confident I seemed now. She had always been the one to take charge, the one to control the narrative between us. But not anymore. Claire took a step closer. "You look different," she said, her voice almost a whisper. "I am different," I answered, my tone firm. "I've changed. I've had to." She tilted her head, searching my face as if looking for any hint of the man she used to know. But I wasn't that man anymore. "How did you do it?" she asked, genuinely curious now. I met her gaze and without hesitation, I said the words that had been sitting in my chest for months. "I did it for me." The words hung in the air between us. There was no anger, no bitterness. It was just the truth. I had done it for me. Not for her. Not for anyone else. For me. Her expression faltered. For the first time, I saw it, the flicker of guilt, of regret. It was subtle, but I noticed it. She opened her mouth to speak, but I raised my hand, cutting her off. "I'm not looking for an apology, Claire. I'm not looking for answers," I said, my voice steady. "I'm done." She didn't say anything. She just stood there, frozen, her eyes wide, as if she couldn't believe what she was hearing. For so long, she had held the power over me, convinced that I needed her to feel whole. But now, I was the one standing strong, and she was the one who was starting to crumble. I didn't care anymore. She could regret what she had done, but I wasn't going to waste another second of my life thinking about it. I wasn't going to chase after something that was already gone. I turned and walked away, the sound of my footsteps steady, confident. I felt lighter, like a weight I hadn't even realized I was carrying had finally been lifted. I wasn't the man I was when Claire left me. I wasn't that broken, empty shell anymore. I was whole again, stronger, more determined, and, most importantly, free. As the days passed, I could see Claire's jealousy growing. I wasn't sure what she had expected, but it wasn't this. She wasn't used to seeing me so confident, so unbothered. It wasn't that I was trying to make her jealous, it was just that I had found peace. I was no longer living for her approval, no longer trying to fit myself into the life she had envisioned for us. I had my own life now, and that was enough. I had finally reached a place where I could enjoy the life I had built. My career was thriving, my fitness goals were being crushed, and the inner peace I had found was something I never thought I'd experience again. For the first time in months, I wasn't haunted by thoughts of Claire. I was living for me. I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. It was at a social event that everything came crashing back, like a slap in the face. I walked into the venue, confident, my mind at ease. The room was buzzing with conversations, people mingling, laughing, and networking. It felt good to be here, a part of something where I didn't have to hide or apologize for being myself. But as I scanned the crowd, my heart froze. There she was. Claire. And standing beside her? The man she had left me for. The man she had been seeing behind my back. For a moment, everything went still. I felt a flash of anger, a deep, searing pain in my chest. Seeing them together, her leaning in close to him, laughing at something he said, it brought up all the memories, the lies, the betrayal, the way she left me so easily, so confidently, like I was nothing. I had spent so many nights thinking about the man she had chosen over me. But this time, it wasn't the same. I wasn't the man I had been when she walked out. The anger was there, yes, but it wasn't consuming me. It was a sharp pain, but I recognized it for what it was, just a reminder of the past. And I didn't need to live in the past anymore. I stood there for a few seconds, taking it all in. I was tempted to walk away, to leave the event and escape the situation, but then I reminded myself of how far I had come. I wasn't running away from her anymore. I wasn't the man who would chase after her forgiveness, who would beg for her to come back. I had made peace with it all. But then, she spotted me. Her eyes widened slightly, and her expression shifted from casual to something more guarded. She nudged the man next to her, and without saying a word to him, she started walking toward me. I held my ground. I wasn't going anywhere. She reached me, her lips parting as if she was about to speak, but she hesitated, her eyes flicking between me and the man beside her. "Hi," she said, her voice soft. There was a hint of something in her tone, maybe guilt, maybe hesitation, but it didn't matter anymore. "Claire," I said, my voice steady. "I didn't expect to see you here." Her eyes dropped to the floor for a brief moment before she looked back up at me. "I didn't expect to see you either," she said, her tone quieter now. "You look good." The words stung. She wasn't the one who had built me up. She wasn't the one who had helped me grow into the man I was now. It wasn't her approval I was after, but she had made it sound like she still had some claim over me. I had to remind myself that I didn't need her validation. I didn't need her words anymore. "Thanks," I said, keeping my expression neutral. I wasn't going to let her see the emotions she was hoping to elicit from me. I've been thinking about you," she continued, her voice trailing off. "I've been feeling really guilty about what happened." I couldn't help the small chuckle that escaped me. "Guilty? Really?" She looked taken aback by my response, but I wasn't going to sugarcoat it. "Claire, I don't need your guilt. I don't need your apology. You made your choice, and I made mine. That's all there is to it." She blinked, her expression faltering for just a moment. The man beside her stood there awkwardly, sensing the tension but unsure of what to do. I could see it in Claire's eyes, the frustration, the jealousy. She was trying to maintain control over the situation, trying to pull me back into the narrative she wanted to tell herself. But I wasn't playing along anymore. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she said, her voice softer now, as if trying to reach me. "You did," I said, my voice calm. "But I'm not the man you left behind. I'm not going to beg for you to come back. That's not who I am anymore." There it was, the truth. She had expected me to be broken, to be the man who would fall apart at the sight of her. But I wasn't. I wasn't that man anymore. She swallowed hard, and I could see the jealousy burning behind her eyes. I didn't need to say it, but I could tell that it stung. "I don't want to be friends with you, Claire. I don't want to go back to what we had. I'm not interested in pretending." She stepped back, her lips pressing into a thin line. For a moment, I thought she might say something else, beg me to listen to her, apologize again, try to justify her actions. But she didn't. She was silent, and it was almost like she was looking at me for the first time. "I know," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. I wish I could have done things differently." I shook my head. "You can't change what's already happened, Claire. And neither can I. But I'm doing fine without you." She glanced at the man next to her, and for the first time, I saw the insecurity in her eyes. It was fleeting, but it was there. She wasn't in control anymore. I was. I stood there for a moment longer, watching her struggle to find something to say, something to fix this. But I wasn't interested in fixing anything. I had already moved on. I wasn't broken anymore. I was stronger than I had ever been. And it was clear now, she wasn't the one who was winning. "I hope you're happy," I said. "But I'm doing just fine without you." And with that, I turned and walked away. The days after seeing Claire again felt different. I didn't feel the rush of anger that used to come so easily. I didn't feel the need to prove anything to her, to show her that I had moved on. No, the truth was, I had already moved on. It wasn't a sudden realization, it was something I had been building, piece by piece, over the months since she left me. But now, standing in the aftermath of our brief encounter, I understood just how far I had come. I didn't need her approval. I didn't need her to acknowledge what I'd done or who I had become. The life I had built was mine, and it was more than enough. I continued to focus on what truly mattered, my career, my personal growth, and new opportunities that came my way. Every day felt like a small victory. I was waking up with a sense of purpose that had been absent for so long, and for the first time in months, I was truly excited about the future. I had always loved my work, but after Claire left, I threw myself into it with a new sense of drive. My work became a reflection of my rebirth, a testament to my resilience. I was gaining recognition, making connections, and slowly but surely, I was climbing higher. The satisfaction of knowing that I was doing this for myself, and no one else, was indescribable. But it wasn't just work. I met new people, people who were genuine, people who didn't carry the weight of the past. I started socializing more, finding new hobbies, and exploring things I had neglected. I was free, really free, for the first time in years. There were moments, of course, when I still thought about Claire, who wouldn't? We had shared so much, after all. But those moments were fleeting now. The pain that once dominated my thoughts had faded into the background. I had learned to live without her, and surprisingly, I was happier than I had been in a long time. I started going on dates, nothing serious, just testing the waters. It felt good to be desired again, to know that I wasn't defined by the woman who had betrayed me. I was capable of finding happiness with someone else, on my terms. And when I thought about the possibility of a future with someone new, I wasn't afraid. I wasn't clinging to the past. I was embracing what was ahead of me. One evening, as I walked into a coffee shop for a meeting, I saw her, Claire, sitting at a table by the window. My heart didn't race the way it used to. There were no waves of anger, no gut-wrenching pain. It was just nothing. She looked up as I entered, and I could see the flicker of surprise in her eyes. She probably hadn't expected to see me here, but then again, she should have known by now that I was no longer hiding. I wasn't running from her, not anymore. I walked to the counter and ordered my drink, deliberately ignoring her. She wasn't a part of my world anymore. She was just a faint memory now. I could hear her soft footsteps as she approached me, but I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. "Hey," she said, her voice tentative. "How have you been?" I didn't look at her. I could feel her eyes on me, trying to gauge my reaction. But I had no reaction. "I've been good," I said, my tone steady. "Better than I've been in a long time." There was a pause, and I knew she was searching for something, any sign that I still cared, any trace of the old me she could hold on to. But there was nothing there. I had let go. I had moved on. "I've seen the changes," she said quietly. "You've done well for yourself." Her words were soft, almost reluctant, as if she wasn't used to giving me credit. I finally turned to face her, my expression neutral. "Yeah. I have." She seemed to struggle for a moment before continuing. "I was just wondering, if you ever think about what we had? If you ever regret anything?" I almost laughed, but I didn't. Instead, I felt a small sense of pity. "No," I said firmly. "I don't regret anything. You made your choice, and I made mine. I'm happier now." Her face tightened, a flash of guilt flickering in her eyes, but I wasn't going to comfort her. I wasn't going to ease her conscience. She had her chance, and she blew it. "I guess I just wanted to know if there's any chance we could be friends," she asked, her voice almost pleading. I shook my head, my lips pressing together in a thin line. No, Claire. We can't be friends. Not after everything. She looked away, and for the first time, I saw it, the regret in her eyes. She had made her bed, and now she had to lie in it. I wasn't going to be the one to help her pick up the pieces. I'm sorry, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I nodded once, but I wasn't going to linger on it. It's too late for apologies, I said. I've already moved on. You should too. With that, I turned and walked away. It was the last time I would ever have to see her like this, weak, uncertain, trying to regain control over something she had lost. The life we could have had was gone, and that was fine. I didn't need it anymore. As I left the coffee shop, the sun was beginning to set, casting a warm golden glow over the streets. I took a deep breath and felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I had spent so much time worrying about Claire, about what I had lost, but now, I realized just how far I had come. I was free. Free from her, free from the past, free to live my life however I wanted. And for the first time, I understood something important. The greatest revenge wasn't in getting back at someone, it was in living your life in a way that makes you happiest. I was living my life for me now, and that was all that mattered. It wasn't just the money. It wasn't just the promotion or the new friends or the connections I'd made. My life was everything I had ever wanted, and more. I woke up each day with a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in years. My career was thriving. I was excelling in ways I hadn't imagined possible. I was living in an apartment that felt like home, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like myself again, like I was no longer pretending to be someone I wasn't for anyone else. Most importantly, I was surrounded by people who appreciated me for who I was, not for who I used to be. No one looked at me with pity, no one asked me if I was okay. They saw me as I was now, a man who had come into his own, not defined by the mistakes of the past, but by the decisions I was making now. People respected me, not because I wanted it, but because I had earned it. And then, just when I thought I had fully left the past behind, I saw her name pop up on my phone one evening. It had been weeks since I'd heard from Claire. She had tried reaching out a few times after our last encounter, but I had kept my distance. I had already made my decision, I wasn't going to go back, and I wasn't going to keep listening to her excuses. The silence felt good. The peace felt good. But now, there it was, her name on the screen. A text message. I almost didn't open it, but curiosity got the better of me. The message was short. Too short. But it was enough. I'm so sorry. I know I messed up, but can we try again? I can't stop thinking about us. I sat there, staring at the screen. 1,000 emotions flooded through me, anger, confusion, nostalgia, and a deep, painful regret. For a moment, I thought back to the times we had shared, the laughter, the warmth, the dreams we had built together. It felt like another lifetime. But I had moved on. The man I was now didn't need her to be complete. I had forgiven her a long time ago, not because she deserved it, but because I deserved peace. The anger, the pain, the heartbreak, it was all in the past now. I didn't need to hold on to those feelings anymore. It wasn't about Claire. It was about me. I couldn't live my life shackled to the hurt she had caused. I thought back to everything I had learned over the past few months. I had spent so much of my life chasing approval from her, from everyone. But now I was chasing my own happiness, building a life that was all mine. I didn't need Claire for that. I never did. And as much as I had loved her, the truth was, we had both changed. I had changed, and I wasn't the person I was when we first met. I had outgrown the relationship. I typed my reply quickly, my fingers moving with confidence, not hesitation. I've moved on, Claire. I've forgiven you, but I can't go back. I've built a life for myself, and it's everything I've ever wanted. I'm doing just fine without you. I hit send before I could think twice. There was nothing more to say. I didn't need closure from her. I didn't need any more apologies or false promises. I had everything I needed within myself now. I didn't need her validation. I didn't need to prove anything to anyone. The life I was living was mine, and that was more than enough. The phone remained silent after that. No more messages, no more calls. It was over. Completely. I put my phone down and took a deep breath, feeling a sense of finality wash over me. The weight that had been holding me back was gone. I had let go of the past, and for the first time in years, I felt truly free. It wasn't just freedom from Claire. It was freedom from the hurt, the doubt, and the fear that had held me captive for so long. The next few days passed in a blur. I focused on my work, on the projects I had been neglecting, and on the relationships I was nurturing. I spent more time with friends who genuinely cared about me, people who supported me without hesitation. I wasn't trying to fill the emptiness left by Claire. There was no emptiness. I was whole. One evening, as I sat on the balcony of my apartment, watching the city lights flicker below, I thought about everything that had led me to this point. All the pain, all the heartache, all the moments I had thought I couldn't get through, they had shaped me into the man I was now. But they didn't define me anymore. I had chosen to take control, to find peace, and to embrace the future. I realized that my life was better without Claire. And it wasn't just a fleeting feeling. It was the truth. I had built something real, something lasting. I wasn't waiting for her to come back or for anyone to fix me. I had fixed myself. And in doing so, I had found a happiness I hadn't known existed. It was then that I understood something crucial. The greatest revenge wasn't about getting back at Claire. It wasn't about making her regret what she did to me. It was about living my life in a way that made me happy, on my own terms, without the need for anyone's approval. And that's exactly what I was doing. I had learned to love myself again, to trust myself again, and to build a future that was mine, all mine. As I stood up from the balcony and headed inside, I realized that I had finally found peace. I didn't need Claire. I didn't need anyone. I had everything I needed to be happy, and that was more than enough.